What if I told you that the walls of your own home might be hiding something? Or someone? Imagine putting your child to bed, only for him to whisper that he hears scratching behind the drywall. At first, you brush it off as mice, maybe the wind, but then you hear something else. Heavy breathing. Human breathing. And before you can even react, the wall itself splits open, and a man you've never seen before lunges straight at you and your family. Tonight's story is about one family's nightmare in a quiet beach house when they learned they weren't living alone. My name's Robert, but everyone calls me Rob. 2 summers ago, my wife and I rented a beach house on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. It was supposed to be a simple, peaceful getaway for us and our 9-year-old son, Mason. Long days on the sand, grilling in the evenings, and falling asleep to the sound of waves crashing outside. The house itself was charming. White siding, weatherwood decks, and that salty ocean breeze drifting through every open window. But even when we first arrived, I couldn't shake a strange feeling. The place was just too quiet. No neighbors for 2 houses down. No sound but the surf and the gulls. My wife joked that I was just being paranoid. But in hindsight, maybe my gut knew something was off. The first 2 days were uneventful. We swam, we barbecued, and we laughed. But on the third night, Mason came into our bedroom, clutching his blanket like he did when he was younger. "Dad," he whispered, "there's something in my walls." Half asleep, I groaned and sat up. "What do you mean, buddy?" He glanced nervously toward the hallway. "I keep hearing scratching, like nails, and it's coming from inside." My first thought? Mice. Old beach houses always have them. I told him it was probably nothing, walked him back, and sat on the edge of his bed until he fell asleep. But as I stood to leave, I heard it too. Scratch, long and deliberate, like fingernails dragging down wood. Not the scurrying of mice. Not the wind. Something slower. I froze, straining to hear. Then silence. I shook it off and told myself it was just the house settling. But when I went back to my room, I couldn't sleep. The next night, Mason refused to sleep in his room. He insisted on dragging his blankets into our bed. I tried to reassure him, but I could see the fear in his eyes. My wife raised an eyebrow at me. "Maybe we should check the walls tomorrow. Could be raccoons or something." The following morning, I did just that. I pulled out a flashlight, tapped the drywall, and checked behind vents. Nothing. No droppings, no openings, no signs of animals. It made no sense. By that evening, I was ready to laugh it off. Until bedtime. Mason had just gone down when he called out again. "Dad, the scratching's back." This time, when I went into his room, I didn't just hear scratching. I heard something else. Breathing. Deep human breathing. Slow. Heavy. Coming from the wall right behind his bed. My skin crawled. I motioned for Mason to stay quiet, pressed my ear to the plaster, and felt my stomach drop. Someone was on the other side. I grabbed Mason and rushed him to our bedroom. My wife looked alarmed, but before I could explain, it happened. A sudden crash echoed down the hallway, like drywall splitting apart. And then footsteps. Heavy, pounding footsteps rushing toward us. The door to our bedroom slammed open, and there he was, a man, pale, gaunt, hair matted, eyes wide and wild. His clothes were filthy and shredded, like he hadn't changed in weeks. Dust and insulation clung to his shoulders. He smelled of sweat and rot, and he was coming straight for us. My wife screamed. Mason clung to my leg. Instinct took over. I grabbed the nearest thing, a lamp, and swung it. The man stumbled back just enough for me to shove my family toward the sliding glass door that led to the deck. We ran, barefoot, hearts hammering, onto the wooden planks of that deck. I shoved a chair against the door while dialing 911 with trembling hands. Inside, the man paced, muttering to himself. Every so often, he'd slam a fist against the glass, glaring at us with those wild, starving eyes. The dispatcher kept me calm and told me to stay outside and that deputies were on their way. But every second felt like forever. What if he broke the glass? What if he had a weapon? When the police finally arrived, lights flashing, the man bolted back inside, disappearing like a rat into the walls. It took nearly an hour searching, but they found him, wedged into a crawl space beneath the house, surrounded by scraps of food, water bottles, and even a mattress he'd dragged down there. He'd been living there for months. The deputies explained later that squatters sometimes find Cecil Beach rentals and sneak in, hiding in attics or crawl spaces, living off whatever they can steal. But this man, he wasn't just squatting. He'd carved out panels inside the walls, creating tunnels between rooms. That scratching Mason heard? That was him moving around, watching, listening. One officer shook his head and said, "If your boy hadn't spoken up, who knows how long he would have stayed in there." The man was arrested, but the image of him, bursting out of the drywall like some nightmare come to life, still haunts me. My family never went back to that beach house. And to this day, Mason refuses to sleep without checking every corner of his room first. So, the next time you hear a strange sound in your home, ask yourself, do you really know what's behind your walls? What would you have done if you were in Rob's shoes? Would you have investigated? Or packed up and left the house that very night? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, sometimes the real horror isn't ghosts or monsters. It's the people already living closer than you think. If you thought this was creepy, hit that like button and maybe leave a light on tonight. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life terrifying stories. Who knows? The next ghost might be watching you.